Wow, 20 years of when you first started looking at financial services till now. What are the challenges that you're still seeing that maybe existed 20 years ago that we're still seeing, particularly around the gender pay gap?
So I think, we have to sort of take a bit of a helicopter view of what generates a gender pay gap. And when we think about workforce composition, that's always one of the biggest drivers of a gender pay gap. In terms of the composition, when we reflect on what is changing and what hasn't changed, we still have this trajectory of women that do come into financial services, but they're not making it up and through the different, if we can look at it in pay quartiles, but also through just the different levels. So there's a lot of challenges clearly that not just in financial services, but also those challenges are faced in other industries as well. So we're looking at things like the ideal worker norm. Is that still alive and well in financial services? It is, and it's alive and well in most organisations in Australia. But what that is doing is actually presenting a problem, because we tend to think about a particular way of working. We tend to think about particular jobs and roles and occupations as gendered, male, female jobs, for example, and that is still happening even in this big predominantly white-collar workforce that we call financial services. So I think that that's a real challenge overall. And I think, as I started to allude to before, it's a very broad church. So I would also say that the challenges are you've got tier 1, tier 2 banking, you've got insurance, you've got brokers, you've got all sorts of different elements to what we call financial services as an industry. And I think each of those particular elements all have issues that are particular to their workforces. So, for example, in the insurance sector, having to create a surge workforce to meet the needs of high, intense weather events and things like that is something that they're having to face on a regular basis. That's a very different challenge to, say, tier 1 banking, and then even within those elements or those areas, thinking about what are the challenges within a certain area of that industry. So private banking, very different to retail banking. When we talk about women in the workforce in financial services, women are moving into financial services. They're still at the branch. They're still in the call centres. So the types of roles that they do are quite a challenge to try and remove that gendered occupational interest and approach. So we want to really have a look at the ways that we can help the sector and the industry overall to make those changes.